Dusty.
She is going to be giving us a guided tour through the Fort Wallace Museum, and I am so excited. I've already taken a little bit of a walk around, but I love having your help to explain some of the things we're going to look at.
We love talking about it because we're passionate about these stories, and that's what this place is about. It's about a lot of stories about pioneer, Native American, and Western history here. So yeah, you want to come take a look?
Yes, please.
Okay, all right. Patty Lou, our staff is here waiting to greet you here when you get here and take care of you and answer your question. We've got a gift shop, lots of refreshments. We love hosting people here, so come on back. This room is the main museum where the original museum was in the 1960 era, and it was built here. And then this was the main museum, and we've added on several times since then. Shall we do the library now or on the way out?
Well, yeah, this is one thing that not many museums have a library. Now the Panhandle Museum, Square House Museum, has a research room.
Yes.
It's one of the very few small museums.
We are so excited about our new research library that we're going to be dedicating this Saturday during our event.
Wonderful.
That you've been so kind to help promote. Our event Saturday at 1, we're going to dedicate this library. It is named for our local historian named Ruth Jackson. She was a teacher, historian, artist, naturalist, and wrote our local history book. And then also it's named after Miles Keogh, the captain under Custer, who was killed at the Little Bighorn. This was Keogh's only command. Was here at Fort Wallace during the summer of 1867. He started the first library at the fort, and so we've named this for him.
Wow.
Take a little pan around.
I noticed there's a lot of Kansas Historical Society references over here.
Yeah, and our source material is also going to be put away in a safe manner. So we're really excited about this. So come on into our main museum area. Let me tell you a little bit, Dusty, that this museum is dedicated to telling the story of the Smoky Hill Trail. The Smoky Hill Trail was the shortest distance between Leavenworth and Denver, and it was discovered in 1865. A lot of merchants were looking for a direct route. They finally found it with water in 1865. Almost immediately, David Butterfield, who had accumulated about $3 million in investment from investors, started his Butterfield's Overland Dispatch stagecoach line with stagecoach stations about every 12 to 15 miles, and they started into building them. And but there were people that already lived here that had a problem with that. And that was our people of the High Plains, the Native Americans. And so they began to attack ferociously. And the U.S. government decided that there should be a fort here. Fort Wallace was established, first Camp Pond Creek, then Fort Wallace in 1866. It was a very active place in the early Indian Wars up until about 1874.
All right, and I love how not only have you mentioned some of the nations that were in this area, which we kind of collectively refer to as the Plains Indians,
right?
But I love how you have incorporated their own names.
Exactly, in their own language.
We talk about the Sioux Nation, and I forget how to pronounce this.
I can't say it either.
Sioux connections, and I've got some Comanche connections, like Ron Parker, his great-grandson of Quan Parker.
Oh, yes.
So I've been trying to pick up a little bit of pronunciation of some of their language.
We ought to get some of those people and then be able to pronounce it properly for our guests. That's one of those little things I'd love to be able to do. This is we have these wonderful figures by Melissa Rao here in our museum. This one is of the great warrior Roman Nose, who was killed at the Battle of Beecher Island. He's in his complete war regalia that was given to him. It was his medicine, and he was given it in a dream. And he has this bonnet with a a buffalo horn and a roadrunner and a bat and a hawk and these beautiful eagle feathers that drag the ground and his distinctive face paint. That was all given to him as his medicine. And he was killed at the Battle of Beecher Island when he broke his medicine and ate some meat for breakfast with a fork made by iron, by the white man. And he did not have time to cleanse himself, and so he went out into battle, and they claim that's why he died. But so anyway, we have some Indian artifacts and some items. This is our Fort Wallace area, and we interpret both the Butterfield's Overland Dispatch stagecoach, one that people can climb aboard, get their picture taken in. We actually use this stagecoach. It went during Trails to Rails, our 2019 event. It went 23 miles, I think, from Russell Springs to here, along with 3 other stagecoaches, and we use it quite a bit. It's going to be on display outside during our event.
Oh, wonderful. And let me do something right quick.
Sure.
I was in here a little bit earlier while you were working on your laptop, and I took some photographs of the interior of this, which this video camera is not going to show up because I don't have lighting, but this is such a rich interior. I could not believe it.
Yes, no, and we had this finished. This was finished out to David Butterfield's specifications. So the paint work, the trim work, the carpet, it said yellow silk damask on the inside. So we tried to at least come close to what he had asked to do.
Another thing I will point out is, notice, folks, there's no glass, especially plexiglass in this window. But look, they had to have something to keep the dust and rain off of them. So had rolled down window shades. And
that was the best.
Too.
That's what they had the best they could do. And that was a 9-passenger stagecoach. 10-day trip from Leavenworth to Denver. Basically, you did not get off to sleep. The passengers stayed on the whole time except for eating and stopping occasionally.
Okay. Well, before we move on real quickly, there's 2 more things I would like to draw people's attention to. And folks, when y'all come here, you can look at this a little bit closer. But this museum is in honor of a fort that was actually here, as was mentioned before, and there were about 300 that were stationed here. And I tell you what, I don't remember how many were stationed at Fort Davis down in the Big Bend area of West Texas, but there are a lot of buildings that are represented here. Y'all need to come and look at this a little bit closely. It's fascinating, more closely. And also this map. This map is showing parts of Wyoming, Colorado, New Mexico, Texas Panhandle, Indian Territory, what is now called Oklahoma, and Kansas. Where is Wallace?
It is right here.
We're almost right in the center.
Because this is a snapshot of these 4 or 5 states in 1867 and 1868. So this is the railroad, the Kansas Pacific Railroad as it appeared in 1868. This is the rivers. These are the locations of some major events, including the Sand Creek Massacre, Fort Wallace Battle, Battle of Beecher Island, and then the Smoky Hill Trail, the Santa Fe Trail, and then the campaign. These yellow arrows show Custer's movements during 1867 and then 1868. So that's the Battle of the Washita down there.
All right, well, we'll leave that to people to look at more closely for themselves. And there are guided tours available here. I think there's a $7 suggested donation. And of course, you will accept more. One other thing I want to point out, gold in the mountains west of Denver.
That's the whole story. That's what's drawing everybody out there.
There you go. I wanted to point that out.
Yep. Money.
Yes.
Money.
Yes.
So here we have several buildings, including a copy of the early adjutant's office that would have been here during the Battle of 8. Come here and get this real quick. On the inside, this is a fascinating photograph of the officers as they appeared June 26th of 1867, and these were officers of the 7th Cavalry that had just engaged 300 Cheyenne Braves in a 3-hour battle right where we're standing.
Wow.
All over the place.
And I believe I read somewhere this is within minutes of after they had finished that battle.
That is my understanding.
That is
and then this
incredible.
little building is a copy of the one in the photograph.
Oh, yeah.
So, and then even we think this chair is one of the ones they're sitting on. Isn't that funny?
Oh, wow. See? That's why I like these hosted.
Yeah.
I would have never known that.
Right.
For myself.
Yeah. So this is a sutler's store, and it has a lot of reproduction items that would have been sold there. Here's a fascinating reproduction, a representation of the officers' quarters. The officers' quarters were made of wood, and the other buildings were made of native limestone.
Which is depicted over
Which
on
is
this
right over
side.
here. And this is actual limestone from Fort Wallace, including this really cool, see this is a soldier's name from A.K. Anderson from Odebolt, Iowa. And we know that's what it came from because in the barn where we found it, it was upside down.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Now, we need to mention too, I think, that the fort itself no longer exists. I think there's the cemetery that was there, and then the municipal cemetery has kind of grown around that. I haven't been over there yet, so.
the way I say it is that Fort Wallace still exists, but it's in pieces all over the county. Because of the prairie and where the homesteaders were coming, they were scavenging everything they could find for building materials. And so they took away Fort Wallace piece by piece, even down to the foundation stones. There's hardly even anything there. So yeah, it was that is a fact of life in this area, and why some things don't exist anymore.
Well, basically any place where building materials are not readily accessible. And that's been going on for thousands of years.
That's right, for thousands of years, and it was true here too. This is a fascinating figure by Melissa Rao that we've just installed. This is Reuben Waller, and he is shown in a photograph that's inside there and over there that you can get a shot of. But Reuben was a 10th Cavalry soldier here at Fort Wallace in 1868. He had been born a slave in 1860. He actually was a body servant for a Confederate general. He witnessed Lee's surrender at Appomattox, and went on to be a Buffalo soldier and later a resident of La Crosse, Kansas, and lived to be 105.
Wow.
Fascinating man.
Incredible.
The German family massacre is another really sad tragedy that happened here when the family's name is actually German. Okay?
Oh, I see.
And they're not like from Germany. They're the last surname was German. And on September 11th of 1874, the family was attacked by Southern Cheyenne, some of whom had been really hurt at the Sand Creek Massacre. And they killed 5 members of the family and took 4 girls captive, and the story of those girls goes down into Texas. Actually, Pampa is where the last 2 girls were rescued.
Oh my!
And then that's all part of the Red River War. And then this moccasin was worn by 12-year-old Sophia while she was captive by the Cheyenne.
Amazing. You've been able to collect some of these personal items.
Yes, well, this is the kind of thing why we have our library, because some of these historians are donating these items.
Wonderful.
And so, like this is the moccasin from this book, The Moccasin Speaks.
Oh, wow.
We have other buildings from Fort Wallace, including our magazine, where we have some samples of the guns that were used. We are in the middle of a construction project, and that's why you see this, but we do have a Gatling gun over here, a beautiful flag was the Colorado Star, that has the Colorado Star. 38 star flag. And then this is the laundress quarters, and this is the first post hospital. And this man right here is young Dr. Theophilus H. Turner. He was a captain with the U.S. Army here at Fort Wallace and was an excellent doctor to these troops, but he's also very well known for what he discovered. And he discovered the bones of a plesiosaur. And this is in 1867. So he's right here below his plesiosaur that he discovered, 40 feet long, that he found along with Bill Comstock, the great scout, Custer's favorite scout that was stationed here at Fort Wallace. They went and discovered these bones. They dug up a half-ton of bone and matrix, sent it to Philadelphia to the most prominent paleontologist of his time, who was named Edward Drinker Cope. And Dr. Turner was from Philadelphia, so he knew this man's reputation. He dug up these bones, took them first by wagon, then by train, sent them to Philadelphia.
Wow.
Dr. Cope was overjoyed, and he quickly put together and figured out that this was a new species. He named it Elasmosaurus platyurus cope.
Wow.
Rushed it into publication. But Dusty, what happens when we rush?
Things get broken sometimes.
Or do we make mistakes?
Yes.
We make mistakes.
Yeah.
He made an awesome, terrible mistake. When he published it, he thought the head was on the other end. He published it as a long-tailed, short-necked lizard.
Oh.
And he was incorrect. And he was mortified when he found out that it was the opposite. And it became known as Cope's mistake.
Oh, wow.
The bones, the original bones of this dinosaur, this plesiosaur technically, is still at the Drexel University of Museum of Natural History.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then this monster was found in western Wallace County to the northwest of Weskin. And this is a Mosasaurus. And this Mosasaurus would have been also about 35 feet long. He was an alpha predator, as you can tell.
Yeah.
And this is the Mosasaurus the most south this Mosasaurus has ever been found.
Wow.
They're usually up into Montana, Canada, and the Wyoming up in north. But this is the farthest south they've ever found.
Wow. And there's a lot of other stuff.
Very cool.
You folks who are into fossils.
Fossils, this is the limestone mecca. A lot of the early paleontologists came here, and paleontologists still are searching for all this stuff in the chalk from the Great Cretaceous period, which is that's the period when this whole middle of North America was covered in an inland sea.
Yeah.
So, shall we do a quick spin through the organs?
Yeah.
Let's do a quick spin.
This is pretty amazing.
This is about 60 pump organs, fully restored, playable, all hand carved, in beautiful condition.
Yeah.
All the passion of one man named Dick Ray, who restored.
Look at the variety of these things.
Yes, well, that's.
Like they were all handcrafted.
They are handcrafted. They are they're individual works of art. And so people really enjoy that, and we do play them. We have a good time with them.
That's incredible. I remember as a child pushing those pedals on an old pump organ like that and checking out the various tonal qualities.
Yeah, no, it's fun. It's fun. And they are really just big harmonicas.
Yeah.
And so they were easily transported. They're not very heavy in spite of how they look.
Huh.
And that's why they went west on covered wagons.
Okay. Otherwise, pianos have that big
steel sounding board. That's right. And so that because those strings are under tension, and so you have to have something strong enough to hold the tension. This is a big reed.
Hadn't really thought about that.
Yep.
Right.
So this is another important story for Wallace, and this is the Wallace Hotel that was along the tracks just here in the town of Wallace, which you can still see the area where it was. And the Wallace Hotel's claim to fame is that it was the first restaurant of a very well-known gentleman named Fred Harvey.
Oh,
Fred Harvey.
Harvey House is famous.
That's right, Harvey houses. So before he went to the Santa Fe Railroad, he was experimenting with his standards and his supply chain with a series of 3 restaurants that were at Lawrence, Wallace, and Hugo.
Okay.
And from 1873 to 1875, he had a beautiful cafe inside the hotel with the famous linens and the china and the oysters on the half shell and just all the incredible things.
Wow.
So he actually, and he had a manager named Mary Berry, so he was employing women very early on. And he had a short partnership with a man named Jeff Rice. That partnership fell apart. Right after that, Harvey went to the Santa Fe, and the rest is history.
Oh yeah, yeah. I was actually fortunate enough to stay overnight at the Harvey House in Winoka, Oklahoma.
Oh, how
back
cool.
in the early 70s.
Do they have it restored? And
You know, I haven't been there in a while. I know that I think there's been like 2 attempts to kind of bring it back to life.
that's
sure what
really
stage
cool.
it's in now.
These are
It's
really
probably
cool
your-
photographs from the hotel during this classic period. This is a cute story. This is the story of how when Teddy Roosevelt visited Sharon Springs in 1903, he was given the gift of a little badger by a little girl named Pearl Gorsuch, and that badger went on to live at the White House as part of the famous Roosevelt family menagerie until it started biting people and they had to send it to the Bronx Zoo.
Yeah, raccoons are bad about that too. I can't imagine what a badger would be like.
But they had that badger running around the White House as a pet. But we say that's the only Wallace Countian ever to live in the White House. So it's a claim to fame. So in here we have Boomtown Wallace and Wallace County. These are some well-known buildings from Wallace County history, including the 2 great general stores, the Peter Rubidoux store and the Thomas Madigan store. And they were right across the catty corner across the street from each other on Main Street, Wallace, during that Boomtown era when Wallace was the section point of the Kansas Pacific Railway, 1870 to 1890. This was a major thoroughfare, a supply place, one of the best places to go to get ready to go further west. And so these guys made money hand over fist. They were made very wealthy in a relatively short amount of time. Peter Rubidoux had a store that covered an entire city block.
Wow.
And they were dealers in everything from New York fashions to plows to fine foods to fine Stetsons. I mean, you had it all right there in those stores.
Wow.
Thomas Madigan was an Irish immigrant. Peter Rubidoux he was French Canadian. And they were frenemies, so they played tricks on each other and they tried to beat each other out with the best price.
What was the estimated population?
The height of population, I'm told, was about 3,500. But that would have been more permanent, but there was always a lot of people in and out. So Peter Rubidoux's famous story, he was a very prideful man. And the day came finally, as Wallace boomed and then declined, that nobody came into his store all day. So he did what he always vowed he would do, and that is at the end of the day, he locked his door and put it behind him, and he never came back. He left $20,000 of merchandise to rot on the shelves. Very prideful man, but a very dynamic, great leader for the county all the way to his death in, I believe, 26. So, and then Thomas Madigan, his family was very instrumental in starting the Fort Wallace Memorial Association. His son, Frank, was very active on the board in the 1960s, and a lot of the Madigan possessions are what started this museum. Including the Pond Creek Stagecoach Station, which we'll see in just a little bit. So we also have a doctor's office. We have Doc Carter, who was a well-known doctor. We've got children's toys. We've got the Weskin Post Office. We've got the first Wallace County Bank that was here in Wallace. And then we also have a schoolhouse that's made of a representation of sod. And
looks pretty close.
Yes.
At least it doesn't get rained on.
That's right.
That's very
right.
helpful.
Yeah. And so that represents the Weskin Sunflower Sod Schoolhouse.
And of course, Kansas is known for its sod.
That's right. That's right.
Houses,
Sod houses.
houses, that type of thing.
That's right. That was like you said. The building materials were scarce.
Yeah.
People are very ingenious
Resourceful.
and resourceful. That is the pioneer way. Is resourceful.
Yes, yes.
So this is a barn that represents the Madigan barn. As a matter of fact, the Fort Wallace Memorial Association has always had dances in the past, and they had them at the Madigan barn, and that's a way they raised funds.
Oh.
So that's why there's music and musical instruments
Okay,
and party
that
things
makes
in
sense.
here in the barn.
Some dancing dresses there.
Dancing dresses.
Boy,
In fact,
I mean,
yeah, look at isn't that fun?
Yes.
Ruth Jackson, people can't believe this, but this sort of prim English teacher was a
Yeah.
flapper in the 20s, and so
Well.
that's her dress.
hey.
Let's take a quick spin down here. This is our community room. And this community room features all these beautiful 1888 cases that came from Denver. And they have local stories, including our long-running rodeo with the Fort Wallace Memorial Association. It's
Okay.
one of the longest-running rodeos in Kansas.
Wow.
These are items from our Swedish Lutheran church that's on our grounds. This is beautiful quilts from our social clubs.
Oh, yeah.
Other beautiful fashion items. And this is from the Sharon Springs Rattlesnake Roundup that was held from 1992 to 2004.
Okay.
And they used to collect the snakes, and
It's like the prairie rattlers might be predominant here over Western Diamondback. Do you
that is right. We don't have Western Diamondbacks. We've got
Really?
these stubby little, I've never heard of one. All I've heard of is we have the bull snakes, and then these are prairie rattlers.
Yes, okay.
This was, I think, the longest one they ever found here.
Oh, wow.
Big. So they're not. They're
and
thick.
fairly aged as well.
Yes. Yeah. Look at that. Look at those rattles.
Yeah.
And then military items from some of our veterans, and including items from when Fort Wallace had its own 7th Cavalry reenactors.
All right. You know, a lot of people really don't consider the fact that rural communities probably sent a larger percentage of their young men into battle than any of the big cities.
Why is that? Well, because they were healthier, or
Well, number one, rural people tend to have a lot more pride in their country, and have values that they feel like they want to preserve. The other thing is why many young people aren't coming back home after they leave small communities is because there's jobs in larger communities.
Right.
So some of those men may have left maybe to start a career,
Right.
or some will leave for adventure, because rural communities don't have a whole lot of entertainment unless you're in the early 1920s in Wallace, Kansas.
that's right. Yeah, in the barn.
Yes.
That's funny. How you going to keep them down on the farm once they've
There you
seen
go.
Gay Paris,
There you
right?
go.
Yeah.
There you go. Right.
Let me tell you another fun story, Dusty. This is the
Okay.
Western Times office, and this is the original newspaper. We still have it here in Wallace County. Has quite the
Wonderful.
history. It was started by a woman named Maria DeGeer, who was a suffragist and a
yeah.
lawyer, and she was the founder of Scott City, Kansas.
Okay.
And then the men out there didn't like being bossed by a woman, so they got rid of her. She came up here to Sharon Springs and started the newspaper, and it's
Okay.
been operated ever since right here in Sharon Springs.
Wow. So she was kind of the Molly.
She is the Susan B. Anthony. She knew
Okay.
Susan B. Anthony.
Okay.
And some of the other leading
Okay.
suffragists. She's not as famous, and we're going to try to change that,
Oh,
because she
wow.
was quite a really intelligent and very determined woman.
Oh, okay. I was thinking of that young lady who became a traveling journalist and wrote for magazines. It was a huge hit.
Oh, am I not thinking of it?
Yeah. Not old timers, I guess.
Well, I'm right there with you. This is our Florist Weiser Gallery. Why don't you get a title shot of it over here?
Okay.
So this is our Florist and Viola Weiser collection, and these artifacts, there's thousands of artifacts in this room that were the work and avocation of a man named Florist Weiser from Oakley. He documented, not only found stuff, but he carefully documented. He could prove where the camping spots were for the 5th Cavalry, for the 7th Cavalry, where the Indian campsites were, where some of the travelers had come through. And he documented that with these items and then carefully accumulated them in these cases.
Yeah, and you folks on YouTube, I came through the museum a little bit earlier, took a lot of photographs, and I'm thinking of doing something new, and that in order to see some of these intricate displays here, it's kind of hard to do that with a video, you know, it comes and goes. I think I'm going to be posting quite a few of the photographs that I've taken here at the facility as a whole, so that you can look at them a little bit closer, maybe even enlarge them a little bit, which you'll never be able to see on your video screen unless you got like a huge smart TV or something.
Yeah.
And
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Okay.
All right. And right here, these are some of the organs we got to play. This is a fun, I don't know if you want a little background music. Would you like me to play the player piano? Or?
Well, I think we're about ready to wrap it up. And I think we may have a chance to do that when we've actually got people in here.
Sure, okay.
And that'll
Let's
be
do
kind
that.
of entertaining.
Dusty, the other buildings on our campus that we'd like people to see are the Pond Creek Stagecoach Station that's right next door, as well as the 1891 Weskin Depot. Then we have the Sunderland Poe building, which has large exhibits and vehicles and barbed wire art. And then we have the original 1888, that's the Bethany Lutheran Church from the Stockholm, Sweden community that was south of Weskin. Okay. And then as well, we have things to do in downtown Wallace, including a walking tour and a wonderful coffee and antique shop there that people really enjoy, as well as our 1879 Kansas Pacific Railway Superintendent's House. And that Superintendent House was one of the last buildings built by the Kansas Pacific, and it's fully restored and furnished, and people can even stay in it.
Wow, that's amazing. All right, and I will give people sort of a hint of what's in the old Stagecoach Depot. Is it depot?
The Stagecoach Station.
The Stagecoach Station. There is a hidden surprise there. And to find out what that hidden surprise is, you're going to have to come take a look. And I'll probably add that and a link to it in the description below.
Cute. Very good.
All right. Below this video, anyway. Mm-hmm. All right. One other thing we have not covered. Well, actually, two things. First of all, how did Fort Wallace get the meme of the fightingest fort in the West? I
think it's because there are no other forts in Kansas that had actual battles that happened right at the fort. Okay. I think that was one reason, and the other reason is we're just an organization that keeps on plugging on, and so I think we adopt that also for our organization, that we're passionate about history, we want to share it, and we want other people to get excited about it.
Well, that's very admirable. And another thing we need to cover is what attracted me to spend a whole week here. We're going to have a whole week.
We're going to have fun, Dusty.
All right.
All right. Let me get my flyer and I'll hold it up.
Okay.
So right here we've got our Fort Wallace Museum 2021 exposition. We're taking the Smoky Hill Trail to the Santa Fe, and so we're talking about how here in the 200th anniversary of the Santa Fe Trail, how the Smoky Hill Trail became part of that freight route when the town of Sheridan had shippers that were sending stuff straight down to Santa Fe, and people were using this route as well. Okay. So we're excited because our good friend Michael Martin Murphy is going to be with us on Thursday nights, September 9th. And we have at 4:30 a Chuck Wagon Supper, and at 6 we have the concert. Okay. And we have Eventbrite tickets if people are interested to go online and look at eventbrite.com. they can get ticket information there.
Okay.
September 10th, we're so excited. We're going to have about 900 school children here, and we're going to do outdoor education with them amongst about 15 stations of historians that are going to be just demonstrating everything from blacksmithing to
Will it be wearing some costumes?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So it's a living history.
It's going to be living history.
Okay.
And we just found out the Buffalo soldiers are coming on their horses and going to do some demonstrations.
Wonderful.
We're going to have cooking. We're going to have sutlers and military and firearms and just anything you can imagine.
Wow.
We'll be out there on the grounds. And then on September 11th, we will continue our outdoor education from 9 to 1. And then the dedication of the new library that we toured earlier will be at 1. And then we'll start a series of presentations with Mike Olson, Frank Norris, and D.K. Clark, followed by Chuck Wagon Supper. And then we will have a raffle drawing for our wonderful Henry 4440 and 1860 item, as well as a handmade squash blossom necklace.
Wow.
And Marla Matkin will also be doing a presentation that evening.
Okay, wonderful. That's so great. Now, all of the same stuff might not go on next year, but this is an annual
We're
event,
trying.
is it
We
not?
are really energized about history education right now.
Yeah.
That is just deep in us, and so I would like to say yes, we're going to try to do that every year. Every year is a different theme. Last year it was harvesting the plains, talking about growing things, harvesting meat, buffalo, and this year is taking the Smoky Hill Trail, and I think next year is going to be communication.
All right.
Wouldn't that be interesting?
Yes. All right. Well, thank you very much for giving us the lowdown on everything that's here. And like I say, there's a lot more to discover about what's outside, plus inside. Things that we did not really cover that well.
Lots more for the family. You know, where there's plenty to do for a family here.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dusty.